Fun is what we're all about. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
What fun at a party!
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
And we're back again for another episode of Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues, we only serve the hard stuff. Well, welcome back. And of course, we can't go any further until we bring on the man. Yeah.
Hello. Brother B, it's good to be back. Good to be back.
Good to see you, Doc. Good to see you, sir. And of course, the studio audience is always excited to have you back, man. I'm sure you can feel the love.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I took a page from Sophisticated Shan, and I just wanted to leave the country and just, relax.
Good. That's a good thing, man. And you know, as you can see, we sort of revamped the Broke as Hell Studios. So now
we got
just
some money. We got some money to pay somebody for new images, right?
That's right. So if we get some more money, we can call ourselves poor. You know, so that's how broke we are. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But Doc, you know, we're going to talk about an important topic tonight, and fortunately, we have you and your expertise to kind of help us out with this. You know, it's the summertime now, and everybody's feeling good, and like the Fresh Prince says, everybody's driving through the park with their shorty shorts on and the tops down. You know what I mean? So summer madness.
As long as they're not slapping anybody, we're good.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep it in the pocket. You know, but now that the summer's here, though, you know, we talked about summer madness, but also summertime can also be, you know, summer stupidity. And, you know, with all the things that students do during the school year, you know, with their standardized tests, with the lessons that the staff members are preparing for the young people to make sure that they're doing well on the AS and the ACTs and SATs and, you know, ESPNs and the elemental PQRs, you know, all the various acronym tests that they have to take each year, you know, I guess starting in kindergarten, in elementary school right up through high school. And one of the concerns is always, okay, what about the summer? You know, little Mike and little Myra, they're not reading as much. They don't have homework per se. They you know, they're just pretty much in the zone of texting and twittering and twattering and all the things that young people do these days.
Yep.
So I guess the big question is, Doc, now that it's the summertime, how do you maintain your child's academic levels of achievement during those 2 or 3 months, depending on your school system that you're out, and the time that you get back to school and you get back to your routine?
Jeez, that's a big question. And to prepare for today, I reflected on how I grew up, what services districts have throughout the country for students. So I'm going to tell you about the fun stuff. Obviously, you have different types of camps. With that being said,
Sure.
I being a musician, my parents being musicians, we every summer, my dad took me to Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp in Michigan, and the prominent one, if you will, is the Interlochen camp, where just musicians, theater people, they go to.
Uh-huh.
It's just like a regular camp, but we play music all day.
Okay.
And that was very fun. Within that camp, I had the opportunity to tour Europe at the age of 13. Within that camp opportunity, because you audition and they pick the top kids.
Sure.
So I had the opportunity, and I was blessed to do that. But you have the music camp, you have the technology camps, coding camps for kids that want to learn. Also, you have the religious camps. And one of my good friends from college, his son has always gone to a Jewish camp in New York. So there's all types of opportunities if you don't want to strictly do academics. Because I know sometimes kids need a break. Parents, they still need that time away from their kids during the summer because they're still working, and they need their kids out of the house, obviously, because they need to make sure their child, if they're young enough, supervised. Also, with the if you're going with the academic route, there's the regular summer school that everyone has. You have to pay for that. In our district, we have what is called ESY, Extended School Year. That is for our special education students. They do not have to pay for those services, and any and every special ed student can go to the summer school for enrichment or to get remediation as well. So I know I've given you a blanket of all the types of camps. It's very important that after students work hard, I'm talking about this statement is going to be for the students that work hard during the school year. I understand maybe a 2-3 week rest because we have some of our kids that like to play video games, and there's so many things to do inside the house. But it is always good to be involved in some type of summer enrichment. My parents would say, "Hey, you read a book," and it's kind of hard to read a book because I wanted to go outside and play baseball.
Sure.
But it's very important to make sure you're involved with something during the summer.
Sure. Now, you are a principal.
Yep.
In a large jurisdiction. And do you see a decline in student achievement in the first couple of weeks after the students return from a long extended break, like either Christmas holiday or the summer vacations?
Well, it depends. The type of student and the family environment. Some kids like to do work and say, "Hey, I read this novel during spring break or winter break or during the summer. I've done some assignments, so I'm prepared for this class." We have the AP and dual enrollment classes, but as we talked about before, when you have families that are not vested in the educational system, students can be involved in antisocial behaviors during the summer. We don't want that, but that has always happened. You see it. I don't care wherever you go in our country.
Sure.
If there's students that are not involved in something, they either hurt themselves, hurt somebody else, or just do something that is antisocial within the community, and we don't want that to happen.
Sure. And is there a mandatory reading list in the school system for students over the summer that make sure that the young people are at least continuing some of their achievements?
Well, if you remember when we were kids, our parents would say, "Read a book."
That's right.
And then we would like to read a comic book or something like that, and that was frowned upon when we were kids, right?
Sure. Sure.
So nowadays, oh, you're reading a comic book? Yes, you're reading something. Um,
Sure.
and I'm glad you mentioned that because the libraries have programs as well. You can go to
Okay.
the library, and it is hot within our country anyway. So that's a safe haven for AC.
Sure.
So you can go to the library. The library does a great job of having books that are age appropriate.
Mhm.
If you talk to the librarian, I know that there's some other things that some of the content might be maybe not aligned with family values, so you can contact the librarian. I know districts have recommended reads when you're in high school. Again, if you're going into an AP course, the teacher would say, hey, just to prepare, here's a recommended reading list. So day one, when we come back from summer break, we're ready to go.
Okay. And do you find that most parents are willing to ensure that work is done, or do you get any resistance? What type of feedback do you receive?
As a principal, I've never received resistance. I know my kids sometimes there's that pushback because hey, I received A's and B's in school.
Sure.
Why am I reading? It's like you got to just
That's
practice.
right.
It's like anything else, like a musician. I have to practice. So
That's right.
practice reading, and that's very important. And again, when you have your families that are invested with their child's learning, you're not going to get resistance.
Well, that's good to know. And I know you mentioned that there are camps out in the various cities and all kinds of enrichment programs. But what about for those young people that don't necessarily have the academic prowess, during the year, for whatever reason, they're not the high achievers and those types of things. What do you recommend to the parents and guardians of those students to at least keep them at a baseline level of achievement?
Read something. If it's a paragraph, half a page, a full page, just read something. One thing that I forgot to mention is, if you feel that there's nothing to do, you don't want to read, volunteer. I've done in the past writing recommendations where kids at my school, they want to be involved in politics.
Sure.
So I've written for the Republican and Democratic agencies here for recommendations for kids to just get involved, which I think is great.
Sure.
But read something. Just don't do nothing. You have to do something.
Sure. And during the summer breaks, particularly with mathematics and science, what is the normal strategy for most? Well, for most school systems that are really trying to get their students to get to another level when it comes to mathematics and science?
Well, like I said, if you passed your math class, if you're a special education student, you can retake the class for free. If you're a student that does not have an IEP, you're going to have to pay for the class.
Sure.
One of the things that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for the sake of our audience, can you tell them what an IEP is for those that may not be familiar?
Sure. Individual education program. It's just maps out for the families, the students, and the teachers what additional supports that students need to be successful. That is very important. So with that being the case, we want everybody to be successful. And one of the things regarding the summer slide that people would say is again, there's so many opportunities that you can get involved with in education, some fun things to do. There's no excuse, and again, most of these programs are at little cost or for free.
Sure. And in this summer school, that's always been a stigma, if you will. Because I think when we both grew up, you went to summer school, like, oh, wow, Tony, you dumbass. You know what I mean? It's just, what's wrong with this guy? You're at
I
a
went
whole
to summer school. Yeah, I understand.
You're at a whole new level of stupidity. When you were growing up, if you had to go to summer school, I'm sure you remember those days. And so now, is summer school now designed for repetition of the 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever the situation was, or is it now a combination of repetition and or enrichment?
It's a combination of acceleration and enrichment. For example, my kids, they went to a magnet school, and it's like, okay, you guys are dancers, you're physically active. We don't need PE. There's some classes, some organizations within our community that you can get a PE waiver, but with the state's requirements, their dance program, they did not get the PE waiver. So we can do one or two things. Actually, more than one or two things. So you can go into the summer, which one of my sons, I was a principal for summer school. He came to summer school for PE, and
Sure.
he loved it. I mean, it was easy. Okay, run a mile as soon as you get here, take a break.
Okay, wait a minute. Did he fail PE?
No, this is for acceleration.
Oh, acceleration. Okay.
Yeah, this is for acceleration.
Okay.
So there'd be some issues if he did, right? He's a dancer, has a six-pack, and you fail in PE. But people do that, and I can tell you why later.
Okay.
But he went for acceleration. He wanted that in-person PE. My other son, he did it online. Thanks to COVID, that made all the school systems understand better online learning. So he did the PE class online. So that class is more, okay, we're going to talk about baseball, read about the rules of baseball and the fundamentals of baseball, and then you'll have the test. And that is the online version. And that really helped us out where, one of my sons graduated early. Now, with okay, you can fail PE, and people ask, how do you fail PE? And the way you fail PE is you don't dress out, you don't participate.
You know, I was asking that too.
What? Say it again.
I was asking that question too.
Yeah, it's even now, if you don't dress out and you participate, you can still pass. Because when we went in school, in junior high school, you better dress out and participate and do well in the sport to get an A. Now, you still can get an A if you don't dress out and participate.
Wow. And I can't talk because as quiet as it's kept, just between you and I had to go to summer school for lunch. Yeah, I'm very embarrassed by that, Dr. T, but but now look at me now, Dr. T. I'm about to receive my second GED, so I'm doing well, sir.
But there are, and I always say this, there are so many opportunities for students to be successful in districts. You have to try to fail. You have to work to fail. You just come and try. A teacher is not going to give you an F if you're trying and you're putting your best foot forward. But again, like I said, you have kids that, for the PE example, don't want to dress out and don't want to participate. They're on the phones and they're not doing anything. So,
wow. And and that's the thing too. When you get to the point in summer school or your summer enrichment classes that you have a student that is not participating,
yeah,
what are the alternatives for that family and that student when you have a situation? I'm going to, just for the sake of this discussion, assume that you have a child that has just pretty much rebelled against mom and dad or the guardian, and I'm just not doing it. And I think we all know when you're dealing with a parent that doesn't want to cooperate, but I'm just talking about you have a child that's just like, I'm not doing it.
Sometimes you have to unpack the behavior and what is going on. There could be some bullying that you're not seeing at the time. There could be
that's a great point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there could be some issues where there's some trauma maybe in PE. I don't know. I think It's very important that the teacher talks to the student, and it's okay to have alternate assignments for kids.
Sure.
But one of my things when I talk to my teachers, hey, what's going on? Did you talk to the parent? And as you stated, maybe the parent is not vested in education. Okay, did you talk to the student as well? Let's try to make sure that we have the conversations and we can move forward. There's always something that maybe you didn't see, and that's very important. And then let's move forward. And I've always said this, regardless if you're an official special education student, everyone should have an IEP where everyone has an individual plan of how they learn and how they can be successful. So with that being said, you can't have just one lesson plan, if you will, to make sure that everyone understands. I think you need to make sure that you know all of your students. As a teacher, band director, I got to know and understand all of my students within their musical abilities. Sometimes, with we're talking about PE, you have way more students and it's really hard to get that one-on-one, but at least try to make that initial effort and then move forward.
And when you're in those situations with the IEP, do the IEP plans cover both the summer and the regular school year, or do you, if little Mike goes to summer school, then they develop a new IEP for him when he goes to summer school? How does that work?
That's a great question. It encompasses everything within education. For the IEP process, it takes a lot of paperwork, some time, because you have to collect data. So if I have an IEP and I go to summer school, I don't get a different IEP. That IEP is valid throughout all my education. So a student last year wanted me to talk to her mother. Mom says, I want an IEP right now. I was like, well, it doesn't work that way. we have to collect data and then go from there, and there's a process, there's a team of professionals so we can write the IEP. If parents want modifications to the IEP, they can let us know. We strongly suggest not to do it in summer because most of the schools don't, in big districts, most of the schools do not have their summer schools at their school with the same group of teachers. You have different teachers at different sites. Like, for example, where I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, there were 2 high schools. So it was at either Wheaton North or Wheaton Central, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, and it depends, because the Wheaton North teachers got to do summer school where the Reading Central teachers couldn't do it, and then vice versa. The reason why I know that, I went to summer school, right?
Okay.
So, with the bigger districts, it's a little bit different, and it's not recommended for people. Well, we try to do modifications, because again, I was a summer school principal and the summer school coordinator. If there's some things that we need to help students with, we automatically do it to make sure that they're successful.
Gotcha. And in your years of doing this, I know you've been in the business for a couple of decades now. What do you see as the biggest contributors to young people sort of losing their academic edge over the summertime?
Well, something that I love to do all the time still at my age, video games. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and you can play the same video game or anything that you're interested that is not academic that can consume you, and then you can make that summer slide where, okay, I'm kind of losing what I've learned the entire academic year previously. So one of the things that, like I said, read something. I don't care what it is, comic book, even social media. If you can read, we don't want you on social media, but if you can read something on social media, go ahead, go to the library, and do that.
Sure. And I have to admit, when I was growing up, that's the last thing I wanted to do in the summertime.
Right.
In fact, in elementary school, we had to read 3 books over the summertime, and you had to do a book report and turn it in on the first day of school. Mm-hmm. And of course, when I did my 3, it was the night before. We were supposed to go back to school. But to your point, though, over the summertime, I would read the newspaper every day and things of that nature. I loved magazines, particularly. I'm dating myself now. National Geographic and Newsweek. Yep. Those are like 2 of my favorite magazines. So I would, read those as often as I could get them through the door. But I do know that is not the case in a lot of households, and especially as we fast forward, 900 years later, or into the future now in 2025. When I was growing up, but it's interesting to hear you say, read something on social media or just do something to keep your mind, going. What do you recommend in terms of the science and math portion of the academic achievement over the summer?
Again, I talked about music camps, different types of camps. There are math, STEM camps, STEAM camps that you can participate. I mentioned coding as well. There's several things. Sometimes the community organizations do not partner with the district, which is fine. But you have to kind of seek out some of the camps. You can go through the local library, and that's good. And one thing that I want to mention that you reminded me of something. So I talked about baseball, right?
Sure.
So unofficially, I was in a STEM camp at home because the Chicago White Sox, they're still struggling. The last time I looked, they're like 25 out. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys,
there's still hope. There's still hope.
Yeah. They just have to win some games, right? If you want somebody to strike out and you can pay me about $500,000 a year, I'm your guy, right? So one of the things that, like you said, you looked at the newspaper. I looked at the newspaper, and one of the things that I've learned, and I had some good math skills, and I learned how to do batting averages, slugging percentages, and stuff like that. That unofficially, I didn't know that I was like I'm stretching it, but in a STEM education during the summer, because you look at the stats, you looked at how many games back the White Sox were, and try to average everything out So that was my STEM education right there. And as my kids said, hey, Dad, how was it like going to school in the 1900s? I'm like,
Wow.
get out of here, right?
Wow. You look good for a guy over 100, though, man.
Yeah. So, everything is good. You just, you kind of have to, and sometimes we're not gonna like this. Sometimes the parents are a little bit lazy. You gotta seek out some of the stuff for your kids. There's plenty of school community programs that your kids can be involved with.
Sure.
YMCA, library district, the school district. There's so many things that kids can do during the summer.
Sure. And is there a particular age group that it's like we have to make sure this group is in school during the summer or in some type of academic environment during the summertime versus others, or is it sort of an equal expectation?
I think it's equal expectation for everybody. I think it's very important for your elementary and middle school. I know high school you start to get into jobs, and we found out, especially with COVID, where there's a lot of kids that are working to support families.
Sure.
And that's very important. But yeah, I would say the elementary and the middle school is basically important because you want to build the foundations in reading.
Okay. And tell the audience again just some of the opportunities that there are. And I'm sure it may look a little different in different cities, but I'm sure a lot of the cities have some of the same opportunities, just in case some parents may want to know.
Well, obviously you have summer school for acceleration and enrichment through the districts. One of the things that I love about our library district, and my frat brother, he's in charge of the library district, which we're really proud of him. There's opportunities for many things to do. Book studies, math camps, things like that within the library district. We have so many libraries, you can just pick whichever you want to go to, right?
Sure.
There's also the STEAM camps. I mentioned that I went to music camps in the summer. There's STEM. The difference between STEM and STEAM, STEAM just has the arts added to science, technology, engineering, and math, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
There's the religious camps that people go to as well. There's always something to do in the summer.
Sure.
With an academics or socially, obviously, we're in the season of baseball, softball, AAU. I'm sure there's basketball camps. Taking my daughter to some volleyball camp things or practices. So there's always something to do.
And when you look at all the opportunities that are out there, do you see any of them being decreased as a result of some of the funding cuts that are coming out of DC? Do you see that impacting, I guess, not necessarily this summer per se, but maybe next summer and so forth?
There's a possibility.
Sure.
But I think, when you see things like that, our community steps up where what we call partnerships, wraparound services with our communities, they'll step up and they'll have something, the partnership with the school. I have, let me give it a shout out, but I want to make sure. So let me go online real quick.
Sure.
It's the last 2 years we partnered with, give me 1 second.
For sure.
We had like a week summer camp, and we partnered with the Society of Women Engineers.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
yeah. So the week after we have school, we've hosted the camp for them.
Sure.
And it was great. Last year we had 40 students. This year we had 60 students. I absolutely said, come on the campus. It was for 6th and 7th graders. There are some 8th graders that wanted to attend, and we're like, yep, you can come. The great thing about it is an independent business, but I talked to our food management system, and they provided breakfast and lunch for those kids as well.
Wow. Awesome.
So that's important. And then again, sometimes you have to go outside of the box, and administrators and teachers have to seek out opportunities for students.
Sure. Wow. Well, Doc, I'm glad that we have you as an educational expert in-house, if you will, because those are, between education and safety and so forth, we've got a lot of expertise in our show, and particularly when you're talking about educating your young people and making sure they have every opportunity for success, that kind of crosses all the racial, political, economic boundaries, for the most part. And people want to make sure that their kids have access to the best, but also, since things are so competitive, it is important that you don't lose your edge. Yep. So that when you get into your 9th grader going to the 10th grade, 10th, 11th, so forth and so on, when you start taking those standardized tests and you start competing for those coveted slots at Morgan State or Harvard or wherever you're going, you want to know that you're in the mix.
Yep.
So I just appreciate you sharing all that information today, just in terms of how parents can ensure their young scholars are doing well over the summertime and they're ready to go when the latter part of August or September comes around, and it's time to get that next dose of school year. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's out there. And like I said, sometimes it's easy. It comes straight to you, to parents, and say, hey, these are the opportunities. Sometimes you got to look for some things. I know, especially with the library district, they have tons of acceleration and enrichment opportunities as well.
Absolutely. And we definitely have to give a shout out, to your frat brother, because he's got some incredible things going on in the library district. I mean, just amazing. This guy is something else, man. He's a real treasure. And I hope people are taking advantage of all the things that the library district offers. I mean, very impressed. Very impressed. So, hats off to him. Absolutely. Because hopefully, as many of our young people as possible are taking advantage of something, because you never know. That one kid that signed up for one of those programs, that may be the child that cures cancer.
Correct.
So let's hope that people continue to do that. So, but Doc, we certainly appreciate it, man. Getting some information so we can keep our young people sharp and focused on the mission at hand. And certainly hats off to you too, Doc. I mean, you and your staff at your school do an amazing job. I know that's not easy. And I know people are often saying, why don't you, how come you won't, and why won't, and they should be, and all those things. But people, don't give you all enough credit as educators with the challenges that you're facing. I know you're always having to stretch your dollars, your time, and your resources. So I just want to publicly thank you, man, for all the work you do.
No, I appreciate it. This is my last school year, Brother B.
Uh-oh.
This is it.
Say it ain't something.
I'm like Michael Jackson. This is it.
Oh, man. I bet you next year, you know what? I'm going to give it one more go round. Two more things I need to do. A few more souls I need to save.
One more tour, right? One more tour.
Okay. So we'll see what you're talking about at this point next year, Doc. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Hopefully, I'm wrong, because you have a lot to offer the system, and I've told you this on the air and off the air, man. So keep doing your thing.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. And I appreciate your support.
Sir.
You are the man.
You're the man. And take us out, Dr. T. And thank everybody for listening. And we have to give the last word to our in-house educational expert, Dr. T.
Well, everyone, thank you. It's been great. It's great being back here, and thank you for listening to Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. Have a good evening.
Bye.